Please welcome to the stage Chief Economist, LinkedIn, Karin Kimbrough.
Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome back from your session. I'm Karin Kimbrough, Chief Economist. Super happy to be here and to hopefully give you a little reassurance about what lies ahead in the future. But right now, let me just say, are you feeling good about being here? Is it nice to be back together a little bit? Yeah. It's nice to see your faces. It's nice to be with other folks, to learn a little bit, talk a little bit, so welcome. So I get the pleasure of helping close out day one of B2Believe. And as Chief Economist, and by the way, many people ask me, why in the world does LinkedIn have a Chief Economist? What do you do? My mother has asked this. And the answer is that I have the pleasure here at LinkedIn of unearthing trends, making sense of data, putting things into context. And that's kind of what I want to do with you guys for the next 20, 25 minutes. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, I spend a lot of time looking at our data, which is what we call the economic graph. And what that really just means is it's all the data we have around our 875 million members on the platform, nearly 60 million companies, 14 million jobs as of last count, and I think 50,000 job seekers who come every week to our platform, which is pretty cool. And that's actually why I'm here, because I think what we do is amazing, and the data we have to kind of talk about the world of work is amazing. And this vision that we have at LinkedIn of creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce is something that kind of keeps me coming in jazzed up every day. And I think what I would say right now is that that vision takes on increased urgency in a time of change. And we are definitely in a time of change. I'm imagining that you all, probably more than any, have lived on this roller coaster, or sometimes I think of it like an accordion, kind of like expanding and contracting for the last 2 years. And I know it because I've talked to some of you, and I also see it in our data. Marketers, sales, recruiters, they're at the tip of the spear in terms of change that we see in the economic cycle. And it goes without saying, right? The world of work has indeed changed a lot. The pandemic and then what we call the Great Reshuffle, which is essentially an enormous number of members on our platform starting to change jobs and rotate around industries. And now we're changing again with this kind of economic uncertainty that's sort of looming, in the clouds in the distance. And so that's what I hope to do today. I hope I can talk a little bit with you about how do we make sense of this uncertainty. What's the data telling us right now? What's my outlook? Which, are we going to get a recession or not? I will tell you in a minute. What do we see right now in our data? What does it tell us about the world of work? And then where are we going? What exactly should we be doing to try to navigate this time of uncertainty? So that's what I want to talk about, and let me get started. All right, where are we? Okay, I will cut to the chase. And there are a couple of charts, so just bear with me. I'm an economist. This is what growth looks like when you look at different countries around the world. The US is that green dotted line. The dots mean that's the forecast. The green means that's what's already happened. The blue line is APAC, which you will notice is not going down. So we do not have a recession call for APAC, but we do have a recession call for most of the rest of the world. However, we kind of, that's what happens. If you look at where we started, we were starting at growth that was like 6%, 8%. That's not sustainable. So we are now slowing down. 2022 has been a year of growth that is less than half of what it was in 2021. That is like, for those of you who are local, and no, not all of you are, so forgive the California car analogy, but that is like driving on 280. It's beautiful. There's no one there. And suddenly you switch over to the 101, and it's like, bumper to bumper. I'm not going 80. I'm going 35 miles. That's what happened to us this year. Next year, we're going to slow down even further. And you will see that we're kind of bumping around zero. Whether you want to call that a recession, whether you want to call it like some stagnation or a globalized slump. It is basically a slowdown. And these things happen. And we all know what's causing it. It's geopolitical conflicts in Europe. It is massive inflation, that it's at 40-year highs, 70-year highs all over the globe. And central banks are having to raise rates. I worked at a central bank for 10 years, so that's like a cardinal sin that I just said that. So they're having to raise rates to kind of tamp out all that inflation. And that's, of course, going to create some unemployment, and that's going to kind of slow growth, and it's not going to feel so great. Kind of like a hangover. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. Look at these lines. They're going to be coming up in 2024. So that's all I want you to take away from this. We're going down, but we will come up. That is how things go. All right. So it's the first 6 minutes of B2Believe. I hope I have not set your hair on fire. It's not that bad. The bottom is not dropping out of the economy. We do have mixed signals in our economy, yes. And yes, we're going to get a recession, but it's going to be a moderate one. It's going to be a mild one in terms of severity and duration. If you think about it, on average, in the US, on average, we get a recession every 6 to 10 years, and they last about 9 months. Sometimes they're longer. The one in 2008 lasted 18 months, so that was double. The one in 2020 lasted 2 months, quite short. So we're kind of expecting something moderate next year, and by 2024 we'll be out of it. All right. Here's my argument for why it won't be as bad as last time. So you probably remember 2008. You probably remember 2009 and how bad it was. You probably also remember 2020. It wasn't that far ago. Peak unemployment back then, 10% in 2009. Nearly 15% in 2020. I think peak unemployment next year is going to be, well, actually, I hate to say it. It's probably 4.8, not 4.5. It's kind of creeping up, but it's not going to be 10%. So it'll be somewhere around 5%. That's not great, but I don't think you need to set your hair on fire. And if I were to show you a graph of global growth, it would be similar. It would show you how much did growth contract in the past. In prior recessions, it would be a lot. And this time, it would not be a lot. So it's not going to be that bad. Okay. So navigating uncertainty is kind of my jam. That's what economists do. We're like super bad at forecasting the turning points, but once we're in it, we're like, oh yeah, it's explained because of this and that. And so I want to give you a few tips that I had picked up along the way when I was working at an investment bank and a central bank, and I saw not one, but 2, maybe even 3 if I'm that old, recessions. And this is kind of how you navigate it. You kind of stay agile and adaptive. You kind of got to figure out, get your bearings, figure out your exposure. You need to get as much information as you can, but you will never have as much information as you would like, and that's probably a good thing. And then you need to make a decision, because you don't want to have analysis paralysis, and honestly, no change is also making a decision, but probably not an informed one, not a courageous one at least. Okay, so let's go into what I see right now in our data. I mentioned we have this amazing set of data. It is very cool. I want to give you a couple little tidbits, and happy to always chat afterwards. Okay, so first off, the labor market's actually still pretty good. Unemployment's not that high. In the US right now, in our platform, there's 1 job for every job seeker. There used to be more jobs for every job seeker, but we're seeing more job seekers come back, and there are slightly fewer jobs out there. But it's still relatively a tight labor market, and that is something that's notable and interesting, in part because not every industry is the same. Tech and real estate, definitely more cautious, definitely a lot of news in the headlines. But then I look at air travel, entertainment, hospitality, hotels, lots and lots of opportunity for expansion. So when you think about the big story about are we having a recession or not, also think about the sub-stories, the different industries, the different geos. There's a lot of opportunity there. Oil and gas, energy, of course, still hiring. They've had a banner year. Lots and lots of opportunities. Workers, of course, and members, consumers, however you want to think of them, people, they know this, and they're feeling less and less confident. When we survey them, they're starting to lose confidence, and that's happening across the globe. But you got to remember, it's coming from a point where they were very confident, where there was a lot of opportunity last year. So this decrease is unpleasant, but not that surprising. It's very interesting that Australia is bucking the trend along with the Netherlands. I don't have a great story for that, but it is possible that Australia doesn't have a recession either. Generally, what you should take away from this is there is concern being reflected by workers about their environment, and we also see it in terms of the mentions of layoffs. We can look on our platform, we can see how many times people are actually talking about layoffs, and it's went up 20% in the last year. Most of that in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 months. So yeah, we've been watching this go up for a while, I want to say since the summer. So that's just consistent with the trend of anxiety that's sort of building, but yet we don't really have the data telling us we're in recession. I think it'll be next year that we finally feel that, but right now it's just a low-level anxiety. And of course, the ad industry feels this too, right? I mean, you guys are alive, you have a pulse, hello, yes, we feel it. Regulations have changed. There's a lot of platforms that are evolving. And so marketers are having to shift the way they spend. They're anticipating, of course, a more challenging environment, and we see that in terms of their spend. You can see from this line, just looking at the white dotted line, they started the year pretty strong, you know, ahead of where they were in 2021, and now they're starting to kind of fall below that, underperform a little bit. And in fact, our data suggests that there is, you know, a decrease in ad spend right now. As of September, I think it's down 5% year on year. So it's a little bit softer than it was last year. And this is probably not surprising to you, but it's definitely something, you know, to bear in mind that this is the downstream impact, of course. When we ask marketers, you know, so what do you think are your challenges? This is what they're telling us. This is what you're telling us. I don't know if this resonates for you, but a third of you are saying, I'm worried about employee burnout. I'm worried about my team feeling just totally overextended. A third say, I'm worried about losing the creative freedom I had when the times were good. Another third, I'm worried about kind of pulling back on all that ground we gained. And then, of course, there's a challenge of like, can I upskill? Can I reskill? Can I maintain pace with all the digital transformation that's happening? So these are the things that are at the top of your mind, their mind, when we talk to marketing executives. And they make sense to me. I mean, I think we've talked about it. We've been through rough times. We're going to kind of be in these rough times for a bit. And it's going to take leaders like you and your teams to help navigate it. And so we really ought to talk about that, right? Let's go to it. So where are we going? I told you, I think there's a couple of tips around how you navigate uncertainty, but I want to get a little more specific now. We take stock of trends that we see in our data. When we think about how do marketing professionals actually use their roles to kind of affect change, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that with your teams? How are you going to do that with your customers and your partners? Well, I'm going to propose this. Sounds a little bit like what I just mentioned earlier, but this idea of like, try to build a little resilience in your team. It's not easy to do. Not everyone's allowed to hire right now. I know that. It's not easy to be courageous. It's not easy to go ahead and be decisive and take action. But this is the things I want to encourage you to do. This is how I want to close us out at the end of our first day. So how do you build resilience? Well, from our research, we know that a quarter of you are thinking about how to kind of create efficiencies in your team. Maybe you're thinking about what the right team size and structure is. And that makes sense. But you can also think about it in terms of how do you invest in the talent that you have. And so when we think about resilience, let's think about how do you retain, how do you shore up the team you have. And this is what I want to talk about. So 91% of workers really, really want to feel like they're invested in. They want opportunities to kind of learn and have new experiences. And that same 91% would say, well, actually, only 52% of the time do I really think my manager or my employer is giving me this opportunity. So what I want to say to you right now is think about how we can make employees feel that their skills are not just being put to good use, but actually they're gaining something from it. Because if we're not doing that, we know they're 10 times more likely to leave. That's what our data say. If you're not investing in your talent, they will leave. And then you are not resilient. So how do we think about upskilling and reskilling? How do we find opportunities for learning? We know employees want it. They want to learn skills. They know that everything changed in the last 2 years in the world of work, how we work, where we work, why we work, when we work. They want to have their skills stay current. And we actually looked at what those skills are. What are some of the top skills in the marketing space that are fastest growing, most in demand? Customer experience, web content writing. I don't know if these resonate for you or not. Do they resonate? Or is it like, or? Yep. Okay, heard it, yep. Analytical skills, which by the way is like for every job. Actually, every job looks for communication and leadership. Those are the soft skills that are literally in every job description that we see, and we have millions of job descriptions on our platform. But analytical skills are right up there too. Creativity, content marketing, and a lot of online experiences are now being sought by employers. So these are the skills people want to have and they want to cultivate and develop. Maybe there's an opportunity to kind of launch a course, create a course for those around you so they can do more learning. The other thing that builds resilience in your team is internal mobility. And that sounds kind of weird, right? Because you're moving people around. Why would that make you more resilient? But we know from our data that internal mobility is an essential retention strategy. Companies that excel at it get to retain their people for twice as long as companies that do not. People stick around when they feel like, oh, I didn't change the company, my job just changed, so I just stayed here, it's great. I mean, you hear that all the time. That's what this is about. All right, so being courageous. It's so easy for me to stand here and be like, you should be courageous. You know, everybody's getting their budget cut and there's these terrible headlines. Go ahead, be courageous. I'll see you. Good night. Yeah, that's not my talk. But I do want to encourage you to be courageous. I do want to encourage you to get as much information and go ahead and make a decision, make a strategic investment, make a bet. Don't hide, don't hunker down, double down on your strategy. And it's not easy to say. I know it. Rather, it is easy to say. It's not easy to do. But how do you push past this and kind of go, well, am I bucking the trend? Am I doing something when all my peers are doing something different? I'm going to get called out if it doesn't work. That's entirely possible. However, there's a lot of research out there that says we know that during bad times, if you make some investments, it actually becomes an opportunity. Increased advertising during downturns or recessions has actually led to increased sales advantage, profit advantage, or both in following years. Okay, my economist brain wants to pick at this a little bit and say, yeah, of course, every time something goes down, it's going to go back up, so you're going to have that increased profit advantage and growth advantage. But there's a lot of studies here that are finding the same kind of, message for you. Don't hunker down, double down. We know that investing in ads and ad spend in prior crises actually resulted in longer-term profit growth. The data is there. We see it. And you have to think about, of course, you have a short-term strategy, you have a long-term strategy, but don't give up your long-term vision. Don't get too tactical. Don't give in to losing all of the creative identity that you've built up just for this one moment, for this recession that maybe is coming. I think it is. It's maybe going to last 6-9 months, and then we'll be coming out of it again. You don't want to have to rebuild things that you gave up or lost. So I would say instead, be courageous. Help tell the story why your brand is special, why it resonates, why it's important during a time like this. Here's another aspect of courage that is really personal to me, but I want to just exhort it here with you. I think it's important to stay courageous about the leaps and bounds that, frankly, your profession has made when it comes to talent and advertising best practices around equity. We know that during downturns, folks that are underrepresented, folks that are disadvantaged, they have less access to opportunity, they have less employment, they have less of everything. And we saw that during the pandemic, which literally erased 5 years of gains in 2 months for equity advancement. That was just COVID. That was just a short recession. So as we face this renewed uncertainty, I just want to say, let's not go back. Don't give up. Think about why it's so important for marketers to try to lead these conversations about equity, about inclusion. And I know other speakers up here have already said a lot about that, but I just want to kind of say, don't give up. We can't go back. All right. This is also easy to say, right? Oh, take action. Go ahead. Good luck to you. One way of thinking about this is, go do something. But I think what I really want to say here is try to imagine that you're just being decisive. Recessions are totally normal parts of the business cycle. They happen every 9 to 11 years. They are going to be with us, for the rest of our lives. But think about having a long-term strategy. What opportunities are out there for us to think bigger, to kind of invest? And so just bear this in mind. I actually really like this slide. I cannot take credit for making it, but I think it's really cool. Recessions are short. Sales cycles are long, right? I don't think I need to say anything else. It's right here. You don't need to hit the pause button. You just need to be smart about it. Figure out where your opportunities are. The average length of a B2B buying cycle is 16 months. That's way longer than this recession I keep telling you is probably, 6, 9 months, and then we'll kind of be drifting back up. So how do you do that? How do you take action? Where? Well, I would encourage you to look for opportunities. I would encourage you to think about what industries, what regions maybe hold possibilities for you. And it could be geographical regions. It could be industrial sectors. Here's a chart of just, like where we're seeing growth. Okay, CPG's got 1% growth year on year. Travel has 30% growth. It's a lot smaller. It's way down there in the tail on your right. But there's growth there. And by the way, so does hospitality. Consumers are still spending on stuff. The data just came out again. They're still spending. The consumer is happy, engaged, and willing to spend. And yes, they are ratcheting up a bit more debt and on their revolving credit cards, but they're still spending, and they will be. So think about what industries you are most likely to kind of present an opportunity, or which geos, if you have a global footprint. I don't know if you do or not, but there are definitely parts of this global slump that I mentioned earlier that are going to play out at different speeds and at different times. We don't think APAC is going to go into recession. We do think the causes of the slowdown are different depending on where you are, whether it's Europe or Canada or other parts of North America. So there are bright spots. We just have to find them. Okay. So here's my last kind of maybe a little bit bland exhortation for you, but I really believe this is the case. We are going to have this uncertainty, and you're going to come back in 10 years and be incredibly even more successful, and you're going to have another recession. And it's going to be caused by something else. It won't be inflation or energy prices. It'll be something else, or a credit cycle or a housing bust. It'll be something. And we're going to have that, and you're going to say, oh yeah, I remember the last one I lived through, and we came through it just fine. You will come through this one just fine too. Just find the opportunity where you can really lay out the strategy that's going to work best for your business. I don't think I'm up here to be able to tell you, each one of you, what that is, but what I have to tell you is you need to be bold. We have to seize that opportunity. And with that, I'm going to give you back 5 minutes of your time. I stand between you and the end of your day. I want to say thank you so much. And I'm happy to stick around and chat with you about the macroeconomy, which is my jam, after this. So thank you.